Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes a heap of research, intelligence, all that raw data, and really boils it down for you. A shortcut to getting properly informed.
That's the goal.
And today, wow, we are diving straight into something that's, well, genuinely alarming. It sent some serious ripples through the cybersec world just recently. We're talking about a critical, unpatched SharePoint 0 day. And it's not theoretical. It's been actively exploited. Breaches confirmed on, dozens of company servers worldwide already?
Yeah, the numbers are climbing.
The speed, the scale, it's pretty breathtaking, honestly. Okay, let's unpack this.
And what's fascinating here is, for our audience, you're highly skilled IT security pros. It's not just about another vulnerability alert. This whole situation, it's a really potent case study.
Hi.
Well, it shows the iterative nature of exploit development, right? How attackers build on previous flaws. Plus, the sneaky ways they achieve persistence after the initial breach. And fundamentally, the challenge, the sheer difficulty of defending in real time against these really sophisticated, really fast adversaries.
So moving beyond just the headlines.
Exactly. We need to dissect the trends here. What are the tactical shifts? What does this imply strategically for how you operate, how you defend your networks day to day?
Right. And to do that, we've got a pretty solid stack of sources lined up. We're looking at Microsoft's own advisories, of course. Critical alerts from firms like iSecurity, Palo Alto Networks Unit 42.
Some really detailed technical analysis from Watchtower.
Yeah, them too. Plus reports from the Hacker News, CISA alerts.
Yeah.
The whole picture. So our mission today, distill all of that. Find the absolute must-know nuggets for you, our listener. Understand the what, sure, but really get into the why it matters for your organization. And maybe pull out some lessons you can apply straight away.
Sounds like a plan. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start right at the core. The vulnerability itself. We're talking CVE 2025-53770 there.
That's the one.
And it carries a CVSS score of 9.8. Critical. Just about as bad as it gets.
Yep. Doesn't leave much room at the top.
Microsoft's advisory, this was back on July 19th, 2025, they described it pretty plainly. Deserialization of untrusted data in on-premises Microsoft SharePoint Server allows an unauthorized attacker to execute code over a network.
And that phrase, unauthorized attacker, is key.
Right. It flags that pre-authentication piece immediately. Now, I know our listeners are sharp. They understand deserialization flaws are dangerous. But what makes this one, CVE 2025-53770, particularly nasty in this SharePoint context?
That's a great question because, deserialization bugs pop up, but the context is everything. And here, that pre-authentication aspect, it's absolutely critical.
Why exactly?
Well, think about most vulnerabilities. Often an attacker needs some kind of initial foothold, right? Maybe a phished credential exploiting some other, maybe lower severity bug first.
Some way in.
Exactly. But with CVE 2025-53770, they can execute code before any of that, before logging in, before any authentication happens.
So like bypassing the front door security entirely.
Pretty much. Imagine your fortress has this super strong main gate, guards, everything. But there's this, side chute for processing deliveries. And if you send the right kind of package, it just runs whatever instructions are inside. That's kind of what's happening.
Because SharePoint just processes data.
Right. It takes in data, tries to reconstruct it, deserialize it. If an attacker sends specially crafted data and SharePoint doesn't validate it properly, it gets tricked into running the attacker's code.
Which means the potential impact is instant, broad. They don't need that first step.
Exactly. No initial hurdle to overcome. That lowers the bar significantly for attackers.
And this wasn't just some theoretical flaw discovered in a lab. It was a 0 day, like really 0 day. Attackers were already hitting servers with this before a patch existed.
Actively exploited in the wild.
What does that speed tell us about the attackers involved here, the ones who weaponized it so fast?
Oh, it tells us a lot. It points at, sophistication and resources. To go from discovery to active, widespread exploitation, especially pre-patch, that suggests a well-organized group.
Either finding it themselves or buying it.
Could be either.
Yeah.
Maybe dedicated vulnerability research teams, maybe quick acquisition from underground markets. But the point is, they operationalized it almost instantly. It wasn't just a proof of concept. It was deployed.
Scary stuff.
It is. But we should also acknowledge the other side of the disclosure. Microsoft credited Viettel Cybersecurity, reporting it through Trend Micro's Zero-Day Initiative, ZDI.
Right, the coordinated disclosure process.
Yeah, and it highlights how crucial that collaboration is. These external researchers find these huge flaws, report them responsibly. It gives defenders a chance, even if it's a race against the clock with the attackers. They give us that vital heads up.
Okay, so we have this critical pre-auth RCE 0 day. It's being hit hard. But then there's this wrinkle. Microsoft calling CVE 2025-53770 a variant of an earlier bug, CVE 2025-49704.
Ah, yes, the variant label.
That one was also pretty bad. CVSS 8.8, a code injection RCE bug. Microsoft patched that one back in the July 2025 Patch Tuesday cycle. So this variant idea, that immediately flags a trend for security folks, doesn't it? What does this whole iterative development thing mean for us?
It absolutely flags a major trend. That word variant isn't just technical jargon. It's like a big flashing neon sign for security teams.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows how exploit development works now. Attackers don't just find the bug, use it, and move on when it's patched. No. They grab the patch, they reverse engineer it, they meticulously pick it apart.
To see how it was fixed.
Precisely. How was it fixed? Where are the potential bypasses? Did the patch fully close the logical flaw? Or can they find another way, maybe a slightly different path, to achieve the same bad outcome?
Like a cat and mouse game.
Exactly like that. Microsoft makes a move, blocks one attack vector. The adversary studies that move, figures out the next best play, often based on the same underlying weakness or logic.
So a patch isn't necessarily the end of the story.
Not at all. It means the initial patch, while it fixed the known issue, maybe didn't address all possible ways to trigger the flaw. It puts a huge burden on defenders. You can't just patch and forget. You have to patch fast, yes, but you also need to anticipate and monitor for these variants, these follow-on attacks.
Requires a deeper understanding.
A much deeper understanding of the attack surface, not just reacting to specific CVEs.
Now, one crucial point for organizations trying to figure out their risk here, Microsoft was clear about the scope. Only on-premises SharePoint Server is affected.
Right. SharePoint Online and Microsoft 365 is not impacted.
That's a big distinction. What does that tell us, maybe implicitly, about the security differences between managing your own on-prem servers versus using the cloud service?
Well, first, it's crucial for focus, right? Stops everyone running SharePoint Online from panicking unnecessarily. If you're purely cloud, you dodged this pre-auth RCE anyway.
Okay.
But for anyone running on-prem, or maybe a hybrid setup, you're square in the danger zone. You bear the full responsibility for securing that infrastructure. And yeah, implicitly, it does underscore the heavy lifting involved in securing on-prem systems.
Compared to the cloud provider's model.
Exactly. Cloud providers like Microsoft pour enormous resources into securing their platforms. Layers of defense, proactive monitoring. It's hard for individual companies to replicate that scale on-prem. The fact that the original bug, 49704, was fixed in July, and this variant, 53770, popped up so fast, it shows attackers are laser-focused on these high-value on-prem targets.
A bigger, maybe more static target for them to study?
Precisely. They're motivated to find ways around fixes for critical infrastructure like SharePoint, and on-prem deployments give them that surface to work with.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting and honestly kind of terrifying if you're a defender. We talked about the pre-authentication nature of CVE 2025-53770. Attackers running commands before logging in, just by sending a dodgy request that SharePoint deserializes incorrectly. Think about that. No password needed, no phishing, just hit the server and boom, you're executing code.
Yeah, it dramatically lowers the barrier to entry.
So this pre-auth vector, it's a huge trend, right? Because it makes exploiting so much easier, so scalable. How does that initial access method mess with typical security strategies?
It messes with them big time.
Yeah.
Your standard perimeter defenses, strong passwords, MFA, even network segmentation designed to stop attackers after they get in, they become less effective.
Because the breach happens before all that.
Exactly. It's like having reinforced steel doors inside your building, but the very first door, the entrance, has this lock that can be bypassed with a simple trick. So security teams have to shift focus way earlier in the kill chain.
Can't just wait to detect bad logins.
Nope. Can't rely solely on spotting compromised accounts or weird lateral movement post-login. You need ways to spot the initial malicious request itself, the code execution that happens right then.
So things like WFs, IPS.
Robust web application firewalls, intrusion prevention systems, definitely, but also really deep network visibility, combined with what's happening on the endpoint itself, catching those first unauthenticated hits. The attacker isn't knocking politely, they're kicking the door down.
Okay, so they get that initial code execution, but then the attack chain pivots, and this next part is, well, really insidious. Stealing the SharePoint server's machine key configuration.
Ah, yes, the machine key theft. This is the critical aha moment.
This is what elevates it beyond just RCE to something much more persistent, right? Explain why these keys, the validation key and decryption key specifically, why are they, as iSecurity and Watchtower CEO Benjamin Harris put it, so crucial?
Right. This is where the long-term danger really snaps into focus. The machine key. It's fundamental to how ASP.NET applications work, and SharePoint is built on ASP.NET. These keys, the validation and decryption keys, they're cryptographic secrets.
Used for what?
They're used to sign and encrypt important state information that the web server passes back and forth with the user's browser. The most famous example is view state.
Right, that hidden field in web pages.
Exactly. It carries session data application state to make sure it hasn't been tampered with, integrity, and can't be easily read, confidentiality. It's signed and encrypted using these machine keys.
Okay, so what happens if an attacker gets those keys?
It's like they've stolen the master digital keys for that part of your application. The reports indicate attackers use PowerShell, delivered via that initial RCE payload, specifically to find and steal these keys from the SharePoint config.
Once they have them.
Once they have those keys, they can forge view state payloads, completely valid-looking ones.
Forge them, meaning create their own.
Yes. They can craft their own view state data, embed malicious commands inside it, and then here's the killer part, sign, and encrypt it using the stolen legitimate keys.
Wow.
So when SharePoint gets this payload back in a subsequent request, it checks the signature, decrypts it using its own keys, and sees a perfectly valid payload. It trusts it and dutifully runs whatever malicious code the attacker embedded inside.
So any authenticated request becomes an RCE opportunity.
Pretty much. It completely subverts the trust mechanism built around view state.
Which leads straight into the problems of stealth and persistence. If they can forge trusted payloads, they can just hang around, move laterally, and look completely legitimate.
Exactly. It's that ghost in the machine scenario that gives defenders nightmares. Your team is watching for bad logins, phishing, weird network traffic.
Standard IOCs.
Right. But the attacker, with stolen machine keys, they're walking in the front door using your key. Their malicious actions are wrapped in cryptographically valid packages.
So security tools might just see normal SharePoint traffic.
Many would, yeah. Network monitoring, even some basic endpoint tools might see traffic signed with the legitimate key and think, okay, this looks fine. It's originating from a trusted process.
Making detection incredibly hard, unless you have that deep endpoint visibility the sources mentioned.
Absolutely crucial. You're not just looking for obviously bad stuff anymore. You're looking for subtle weirdness within seemingly good activity. That requires granular endpoint detection and response EDR, or even better, XDR, extended detection and response.
It's kind of weirdness.
Things like PowerShell running scripts from odd places on the server, processes trying to access sensitive config files, SharePoint making unexpected outbound connections, new ASPX files appearing, things that aren't part of normal SharePoint behavior, even if the initial trigger looked legit.
So it demands that deeper behavioral analysis.
Precisely. Beyond signatures, you need to spot the actions of the compromise, even if the delivery method is disguised. It really highlights this trend. Robust endpoint monitoring, EDR, XDR, it's becoming non-negotiable.
And this observation from Benjamin Harris about remediation, it's huge. He said a typical patch would not automatically rotate these stolen cryptographic secrets, leaving organizations vulnerable even after they patch.
That's a critical point.
What does that actually mean for a company that's patched but might have had keys stolen beforehand? This seems like a major trend in dealing with sophisticated breaches.
It's probably the most sobering part of this whole thing. It shatters that old patch and pray mentality.
Yeah.
Applying the patch for CVE-2025-53770. Essential. It closes that initial pre-auth RCE door. Absolutely do it. But if the attackers grab those machine keys before you patched, they still have a persistent backdoor. They can still forge those view state payloads and get RCE through normal authenticated SharePoint sessions. The patch fixed the entry, but it didn't clean up the compromise, the stolen keys.
So patching isn't enough if you were already hit.
Not nearly enough. Full remediation must go beyond patching. It demands rotating those cryptographic keys manually.
And that's not simple for SharePoint, right?
Not trivial at all. It can be complex, might need downtime, could break integrations. It needs careful planning. But without that post-breach crypto hygiene, you're left with this dangerous false sense of security. You think you're safe because you patched, but the back door is wide open.
Underscores the need for a full incident response, not just patching, including key management.
Absolutely. Assess the full life cycle of the attack, including compromised secrets.
And the scale here. iSecurity talked about mass exploit waves, Over 85 SharePoint servers compromised globally across 29 orgs, multinationals, government entities.
Yeah, real-world impact, hitting significant targets.
And Pete Kirchhoff's iSecurity CTO stressed the speed. Adversaries are laterally moving using this remote code execution with speed. How does that rapid lateral movement using the stolen keys escalate things?
It turns a beachhead into a potential full network compromise incredibly quickly and stealthily. With those forged payloads looking legit, attackers can hop from the initial server to other SharePoint servers in the farm, maybe even connected systems.
Bypassing detection again.
Often, yes. Traditional detection, looking for failed logins or weird traffic, might miss it. And the speed Kirchhoff's mentioned is key. Usually, there's maybe a window between initial access and serious lateral movement. Here, pre-AUG RCE plus immediate key theft collapses that window.
Near instant pivot to persistent, stealthy access.
Exactly. Your time to detect and respond shrinks dramatically.
Yeah.
It's not just about containing one server anymore. It's about figuring out if keys were stolen and starting that enterprise-wide key rotation before they burrow deeper, steal data, deploy ransomware.
Demands really fast detection and response. MTTD, MTTR become critical.
Absolutely critical. Pushes towards more automation, more proactive threat hunting.
So just when you thought one critical zero day was bad enough, this whole situation got tangled up with other related exploits.
Yeah, the picture got murky for a bit.
Early reports, like from iSecurity and Unit 42, mention attackers chaining two other CVEs. CVE-2025-49706, that's a CVSS 6.3 spoofing bug, with the earlier RCE, CVE-2025-49704.
Right, the tool shell chain.
Yeah. And iSecurity found attackers hitting a specific endpoint, layouts15toolpane.aspx, using a spoofed referer header. They set it to layoutssignout.aspx to bypass authentication. That's clever. How significant is that tactic, spoofing HTTP headers like referer?
Oh, it's very significant. It shows the attackers really understand the application's internal logic, how it trusts certain inputs. The referer header applications sometimes use it for internal checks, maybe authorization flows.
Thinking the request comes from a trusted part of the site.
Exactly. By setting it to the sign-out page, they tricked SharePoint into thinking the request was part of a legitimate internal post-logout process. Bam! Authentication bypass. ZDI even characterized 49706 specifically as an auth bypass due to how referer was handled at that endpoint.
So it's not brute force, it's exploiting the application's logic.
Precisely. Exploiting trust assumptions in the code. That's often a sign of more sophisticated attackers digging deeper than just surface-level flaws.
Okay, but then things got even more complicated. There was confusion, right? Benjamin Harris at Watchtown noted suspicion that our main zero-day, CVE-2025-53770, might be linked to, or maybe overlapping with, that tool shell activity involving 49704 and 497706.
Understandable confusion, especially with Microsoft calling 53770 a variant. It suggested a direct connection.
But then Microsoft clarified things, and this update really changes the narrative, doesn't it? Walk us through that crucial clarification.
Right. This is where you need to pay close attention because the details matter immensely. Microsoft came back and said, okay, CVE 2025-53770, the main zero-day we're focused on, it actually adds more protections for the original RCE, CVE 2025-49704.
More protections for it, not a bypass of it.
Correct. Think of it as hardening against that type of deserialization flaw seen in 49704. It's not directly related to the auth bypass 49706. It's an enhancement to a previous fix for a specific vulnerability class.
Okay, so 53770 relates back to 49704.
Yes, but wait, there's more. Microsoft also announced a brand new flaw, CVE 2025-53771.
Another one, seriously.
Yep. And they specifically said this new one, 53771, includes more safeguards than the original auth bypass, CVE 2025-49706.
So 53771 is the real fix or replacement for the 49706 auth bypass.
It appears so. 53771 seems to be the more comprehensive fix for that referer header manipulation vulnerability. So you got 53771 hardening against the 49706 style auth bypass. Two separate streams of fixes and bypasses, essentially.
Okay, but let me try to recap this. It's like whack-a-mole. Microsoft patches 49704, the first RCE. Then they try to patch that even better with 53777. Meanwhile, there was this separate auth bypass, 49706, and that now gets a better fix with 53771. Is that roughly it? A chain reaction?
That's a pretty good way to visualize it, yeah. A chain reaction of fixes and implicitly bypasses that prompted those improved fixes.
Because this raises a massive question, right? What does it mean when patches come out and almost immediately attackers find and exploit new variants or related flaws that bypass the fix? Is the whole patch management cycle kind of broken by this speed?
You've hit the absolute core strategic challenge here. Whack-a-mole is painfully apt. This shows just how agile, how persistent threat actors are now. It's a critical trend you have to grasp.
It's not just patch Tuesday and relax.
Not anymore. Not against these actors. They aren't just patching their systems. They're analyzing Microsoft's patches, reverse engineering them, finding the logical gaps, the alternative paths, the first fix missed. That leads to bypasses, sometimes incredibly quickly, days or weeks.
Which creates a paradox for defenders.
Exactly. The faster the vendor patches, the faster the attackers dissect that patch to find the next hole. It means defense cannot just be reactive patching. You have to understand the mechanisms attackers are using to create these bypasses.
Move towards proactive defense.
Yes. Proactive threat hunting. Understanding common exploit patterns. Deep visibility to spot the subtle signs of a bypass attempt. If patch A leads almost immediately to exploit B, a variant or bypass, you need to be watching for exploit B with extreme vigilance right after applying patch A.
This iterative development, it just shrinks the response window constantly.
Dramatically, pushing the need for automation, for faster detection, further up everyone's priority list. And it really emphasizes the value of things like red teaming, purple teaming, trying to find these bypasses yourself before the bad guys do.
It feels like the speed of bypass development is outpacing the speed of patching, almost. These fixes from July Patch Tuesday were bypassed by multiple new 0 days so quickly. That level of adversary sophistication, it challenges traditional vulnerability management.
It absolutely does. It mandates that shift in thinking you mentioned, from patch and pray to patch, monitor intensely for bypasses, and continuously harden the overall system.
Now, for our audience, many are familiar with MITRE 818CK. Where do these rapid bypass tactics fit, and what techniques should defenders maybe prioritize in response?
Great question. Tying it back to ATT&CK is key for actionable defense. The initial RCE 53770, that's initial access, TA0001, likely exploit public-facing application, TLA190. Pretty clear. But the bypass is the variant nature. 53771, bypassing 49706, that screens defense evasion, TA0005. Techniques like exploitation for defense evasion, T1212. And because it enables continued access, it also relates to persistence, TA00003, maybe exploitation for persistence, T1214.
So defenders need to look beyond just T10190.
Absolutely. After the initial access, you need laser focus on credential access, TA0006, because the machine key theft is essentially stealing credentials. Think OS credential dumping, T1003 maybe, or conceptually similar to steal web session cookie, T1500. That's persistence, TA0003, via techniques like server software component, T1305, specifically web shell, T1505-403, is critical because those forged view state payloads and dropped web shells are how they stay in. Plus, any subsequent lateral movement, TA0000, using those tooling keys.
So patching is step one, but monitoring for activity related to these evasion, credential access, persistence, and lateral movement techniques is crucial, even post-patch.
Crucial, because the next attack might just be a slightly tweaked version targeting a related flaw. It demands continuous vigilance and hunting aligned with these ATT&CK TTPs. This whole episode, with 53771 popping up right after 53770 as bypasses, it's a stark picture of this relentless landscape.
Right, so in that chaotic window, before Microsoft had patches ready for CVE-2025-53770, they did put out some urgent guidance.
Yeah, interim mitigations, always important in zero-day situations.
The main advice was configure AMSI integration, that's the anti-malware scan interface in SharePoint, and make sure Defender AV is running on all SharePoint servers. Why was that the go-to initial advice?
It's about falling back to endpoint controls when a patch isn't there yet. AMSI is designed specifically to let applications like SharePoint work closely with antivirus engines. It helps detect malicious scripts, like PowerShell payloads or obfuscated code that attackers might use after the initial exploit.
Like the scripts used to steal the machine keys.
Exactly. Or scripts used to drop web shells. AMSI gives AV a better shot at catching that activity. Defender AV itself provides another layer, signature-based and some behavioral detection. It's about creating tripwires on the server itself.
And Microsoft noted AMSI is on by default in recent SharePoint updates.
Right. September 2023 updates for 21.6.2019 and the 23H2 update for subscription edition. But if you're on older versions or had it disabled, this was critical advice.
And if AMSI wasn't possible,
the advice was pretty stark. Disconnect the SharePoint server from the internet, period, until a patch arrived.
Wow, pull the plug.
That tells you how severe Microsoft viewed the risk. Taking a business-critical application offline, that's a last resort. It means the risk of compromise was deemed higher than the operational impact of downtime.
They also recommended Defender for endpoint.
Yeah, for more advanced post-exploit detection. DFE goes deeper into behavioral analysis, threat hunting capabilities, exactly what you need to spot the stealthy stuff we've been talking about. It's about layering defenses.
This whole response involved collaboration, too. CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, they put out their own alert confirming active exploitation.
CISA got involved quickly.
And Chris Butera over there, acting exec assistant director for cybersecurity, he stressed the teamwork. CISA was made aware by a trusted partner, and we reached out to Microsoft immediately. He called it operational collaboration in action. How vital is that kind of rapid info sharing when 0 days hit?
It's absolutely fundamental,
Right.
foundational. In today's landscape with attackers moving so fast, the old model of siloed research and delayed disclosure just doesn't cut it. This real-time sharing between researchers, vendors like Microsoft, government agencies like CISA, it creates an essential early warning system.
A defensive network effect.
Exactly. One partner spots something, the warning goes out quickly. It allows for faster advisories, development of temporary mitigations like the AMSI guidance, even before a patch is fully baked. It helps defenders shift from being purely reactive to being more informed, more prepared. Without that trust and speed, the attackers would have an even bigger head start. It's a positive trend, definitely. Needs constant nurturing.
Okay, so fast forward slightly, Microsoft did release patches, good news, for both CVE 2025-53770 and that new bypass, CVE 2025-53771.
Yes, patches are available now. Critical to apply them.
But, and we have to keep hammering this point, the problem of the stolen keys remains. If attackers grab those machine keys before the patch, patching alone doesn't fix the persistence issue.
Right.
Cannot emphasize that enough. The patch closes the initial RCE doors, but it does not automatically rotate or invalidate cryptographic secrets that might have already been stolen. If they got the keys, they still have the keys.
Which, again, means they can keep forging those trusted view state payloads and maintain stealthy access, potentially achieving RCE through legitimate authenticated channels. The patch fixes the vulnerability, but not the compromise if it included key theft.
So, incident response here has to include checking for key theft and, if suspected or confirmed,
A full cryptographic key rotation for SharePoint, that complex, potentially disruptive, but absolutely necessary process we talked about. Without it, you're patching the walls while the attacker still has a master key to the building. It really forces a focus beyond just vulnerability scanning into deep compromise assessment and proactive key management hygiene.
And this whole scenario just powerfully reinforces that point about needing deep endpoint visibility. It's not just about firewalls anymore.
Not by a long shot.
When attackers can forge trusted payloads using stolen keys, blend right in. What kind of EDR, XDR capabilities are essential? What should teams actually look for?
You need solutions that go beyond just matching signatures. You need deep behavioral analysis on the SharePoint servers themselves. Look for anomalies, deviations from the baseline of normal activity, like PowerShell executing from weird directories. Processes trying to read the web.config file where machine keys are stored. Unexpected outbound network traffic from the SharePoint process, w3wp.exe usually. New ASPX files appearing in SharePoint folders. Even subtle things like changes in how view state is being used or generated, if your tools can get that granular.
Detecting the abnormal within the seemingly normal.
That's the challenge. EDR, XDR tools provide that necessary telemetry, the analytics, the ability to hunt for these subtle indicators of compromise, IOCs, or indicators of attack, IOAs. It's why these tools are shifting from nice to have to absolutely essential in a modern security posture. You need that visibility on the endpoint itself.
And finally, let's just touch on that speed factor again. Pete Kirchhoff's saying adversaries are laterally moving with speed. It shrinks the window for defenders.
Massively.
So this raises that big question again. What more can organizations do? When patches aren't a complete fix because of stolen keys, when attackers bypass fixes so fast, what's the strategic shift needed?
The shift is towards continuous verification and resilience, assuming breach almost. It's moving from that reactive patch scan repeat cycle to a more proactive stance.
Meaning
Continuous monitoring, yes, but also active threat hunting. Investing in the skills and processes to use your EDR, XDR tools to proactively search for threats, not just wait for alerts. Integrating detailed threat intelligence about attacker techniques, TTPs, not just CVEs, into your detection logic. Practicing incident response for scenarios exactly like this cryptographic key compromise. Building resilience so that even if one part is breached, you can detect, contain, and recover quickly. Minimize that blast radius, maximize detection and response speed. That's the game now. Hashtag out outro.
Okay, let's try to wrap up this, well, pretty intense deep dive. What we've seen with this SharePoint Zero Day is a really complex, multi-layered threat.
Definitely not simple.
It started with that critical pre-auth RCE CVE-2025-53770, exploited immediately, widely. Then came the really sophisticated part, the deep, stealthy persistence achieved by stealing the server's machine keys.
Allowing them to forge those view-state payloads, blend right in.
And maybe the most concerning trend revealed here, the sheer speed at which bypasses emerged. CVE-2025-53771 popping up as another zero-day, bypassing fixes for earlier flaws. It just shows how incredibly agile these adversaries are.
Relentless iteration.
So what does this all mean for you, our audience, the folks on the front lines defending this stuff?
Well, I think it means building truly resilient defenses today requires moving way beyond just traditional patching. You absolutely need that deep endpoint visibility, the EDR, XDR, to catch the stealthy stuff, the ghosts in the machine.
And the crypto hygiene.
Understanding that patching doesn't magically fix stolen keys. You need a plan for assessing that risk and rotating keys if necessary. And maybe most fundamentally, you have to adapt to this reality of rapid bypasses. Your VM program, your IR playbooks. They need to account for this. Integrate proactive threat hunting. Think about the whole kill chain.
It leads to a pretty challenging final thought, doesn't it?
It does. Consider this. If an attacker can steal your application's core cryptographic secrets and then move with the speed and legitimacy of a trusted insider, how do you really build defenses? Not just against today's known CVE, but against the underlying mechanisms, the key theft, the bypass tactics.
What's the role of proactive key management? Not just TLS certs, but these application-level secrets like machine keys. How deeply does threat hunting need to go?
Exactly. These are the hard questions this incident forces us to ask. This whole SharePoint situation. It's more than just another security bulletin. It's a stark reminder of the escalating challenges we face, and hopefully an invitation for all of you listening to really think hard about how prepared your organization is for this level of advanced, agile threat. Something to definitely mull over.
Indeed. A lot to think about there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon to unpack another stack of crucial intelligence.